Hi and welcome to VFX Tutors. I'm Josh and in this video we'll be continuing with RM002 of the RotoAnim. In our last one we went through into some key poses. So if we go through and we still got some, if we just skip through the frames it probably looks better. So if we skip through the frames, let's pick our waist, so that's where our main key poses are on. We see we've got some really nice key poses of this lady running. So our next step now is to sort of do some more refining. So obviously she's going to be bobbing up and down in his run cycle. So we need to make sure that we do that as well. So let's start with the waist. We'll start on key frame 5. Because we sort of roughly did the feet positions. So we can sort of almost trust those. So we can sort of bring our head down with just using the hips control. And we sort of want to make sure that we're getting it roughly in a nice place. You'll probably find most of our depth is already achieved by our key poses. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to do my first set of in-betweens just on my waist. I'm going to use my waist and my head as reference for the position and rotation. And you should find that you should get pretty good lineups with this straight away. That's if your key poses are nice and tight. Cool. So that looks pretty good. And obviously don't use the jacket as reference. I would use our shoulders for reference of height. Because this jacket probably pops up and down a lot. So we go down a tiny bit. We're just going to do these hip, first of all on this hip positions on every in between frame. So because we did every 10, now we'll do every 15. I'm just going to keep an eye on my knees, try and get our head into position, keep our hips into place. Don't forget we've already sort of roughed out our feet so they won't be too far off. So don't go crazy and try and force it to a position that breaks everything else. So I've roughly got our hips in. Cool. So we flick between our keyframes, we sort of see it's looking quite nice. Go to frame 1025. We'll just do the same thing for all of them. roughly get these into shoulders into position. Do a head. That looks good pretty much straight away. Just go straight with the hips. Well, the head's almost perfect straight away, so don't need to move that much. Cool, and that looks pretty good there as well. So let's just double check that we've not, because I know the further on I tend to always, I sometimes stay too long in the camera view, and you always need to make sure you check your perspective, that you're not make sure you're not doing anything weird. So you can play through this. So I think this footage has been slightly slowed down, so it might look also a bit odd. So if we look at our head, bar a couple frames that we haven't even done, which are in betweens, it's looking pretty good. We're really close already to something that's reasonable. So just don't get too caught up in this jacket, because the jacket slips up and down and it's very confusing. This looks like that, well, that goes up and down on her waist, so be careful of that. So we've done our first set of sort of tweens on our hips. I think we've got a pretty good result. We're not throwing out the legs too much, so I think we can just start going through and refining more of our in-betweens now on everything. So I'm just going to go to my knees, check these feet. You might not have to adjust it that much. Knees sort of coming in. Yeah, leg goes through that at some point, so we just need to fix that. But that's something we can do a bit better later. So I'm just going to focus on one leg at the moment on these tweens. Go to frame. I've already done keyframes on most of these, apart from that one. So it's got that knees fitting quite nicely in the ankles there. See what it looks like here. Forgot to change the knee twist on that one, so let's go back to 35. I didn't change it because it didn't need it, but I'll put a keyframe on it anyway. be something strange going on here. Can't actually see what leg that is. Okay, so this knee's really bent forward. That's more there. Bend back. So still may not have got the correct poses, so I just want to make sure. Just like one. So that should actually be. That's where it gets tricky because. Let's have a look at that first one. So something's gone wrong here. Let's have a look at this foot. Something funny going on with the legs. So obviously that's not logical for that to happen, so possibly that we got a wrong key pose. Delete the keyframes off that. So don't be afraid of deleting stuff. So that is odd. I'm just going to go through and do these feet. Weird bits. What's going on here? Oh, it's just not that. That's this bit here. So I'm just going to focus on getting these legs in nice. I'm not going to do them on any particular frames. I'm just going to start keyframing them in. Some of them you might have to do lots of keyframes, some of them you might not. So I'm going to work with this leg first. I'm just going to go through and try and get it. As tight as possible. So we're actually getting this sort of this knee roughly lined up, which is quite nice. Obviously we don't want that because that's unrealistic. Let's delete that. You don't want to be hyperextending, so that looks pretty good. Like I say, this is just still very much just like a beginner's sort of Rotomation tutorial. You really want to be spending quite a long time on getting these very accurate. So I'm just going to go through and try and get this left leg in as nice as possible. Try and pick points where it's coming out, just readjusting it back in. Comes off quite a bit there. Let's try and get that knee in. Comes off there. Just going through and just trying to get as much of this. Without trying not to do too many keyframes, because you could end up making it jittery, which is worse. So you want to try and get away with as little keyframing as possible. Bring it back, it's probably a bit more logical. So you sort of got some pretty decent sort of leg movement there. So we're going to use one leg and we're going to sort of... We've done that one leg roughly, so it gives us a good idea of where the floor is. But we need to... Now, you can go through and do them bit by bit, but I like kind of doing my contact points and making sure my torso is always correct, even on these tweens, because that could cause us problems. So I'm going to assume that our head's pretty stationary most of the way. I'm going to adjust my waist and torso height to match the head. And also keeping the shoulders in mind. If you're doing lots of keyframes, just make sure you're only adjusting it a small amount. And always continually in that similar direction. Don't be doing really sharp up and down movements, otherwise you will get jittery tracks, which is way worse. So I'm just going through and just trying to match the height. Obviously the rotation of her head's going to be slightly different to get the facial features in, but we've already got a large percentage of the animation already correct. Like stuff like this, we need to bring in the hips. So if we just focus on the head, it's like our head's been completely driven by our hips. Obviously there's still some wobble in there, but it's looking pretty good. For a basic RotoAnim, that's looking quite nice. Obviously the jacket's probably not the best, but the jacket does kind of make it very confusing. But anyone sort of really, if you're putting this on your show reel, most people that understand, that are going to look at it, will understand what's going on, so don't worry too much. Look at all these keyframes. So let's just do our head, because our head's, now we've done our hips and our head, it's a good indication we're in the right place. So we'll just go through and we'll actually sort of get this as close as we can, roughly, I guess, using our head. And that sort of torso control. Maybe not so much the torso. See, her face is not going to fit perfectly, but we can get it pretty close. Just go through and just small adjustments to the face. So most of it looks pretty good. Pop, I think that's probably when we put it on our torso, so let's delete those keys that we put on our torso. It's probably a bad idea. Don't forget her hair is going to be sort of fluttering around as well, so. But we can see, if we select our turn off reference and select our geometry, we can see it's the eyes are working really well. I've seen some places it's not, but if we can find those and adjust, and using your facial features to line it up is going to be your best route to get a really nice track. So you obviously want to spend quite a lot of time on this. Like, if this needed to be really, really good, you'd probably spend a week or a couple weeks on it, depending on how good you are. I don't think you want to probably watch me doing this for a week, so it's not going to be absolutely perfect, but hopefully we can get to a point where it looks good enough for you to sort of do your own stuff with and just get going with it. Really, the biggest part, well, the hardest part is just to get started, and if you don't have plates or rigs, it can be pretty difficult to get going. So with all of this, you get all the rigs, these rigs free, and the plate, so you can just download it and follow me through, or follow through with me. So you don't have to worry about looking for anything, you can just pick it up and go. And you can stick it in your show reel if you want to. But having something like this, a lady running in your reel, probably quite good. For the RotoAnim side of things, because most places want to see people being able to do that. Don't forget to save regularly as well. See how that neat pops out there. Let's see what's going on there. It's troublesome. This is the problem with some of these rigs. They may line up really nicely, but you still may get problems with them. Like I said, the hardest parts that you struggle with is with the bits that you don't have guaranteed sort of depth. So I'm going to try to follow this shape here. I think it's probably our best, but she's got quite a large, the rig's got quite a large calf, so definitely got something odd going on with this foot here, so it shouldn't be that difficult, but sometimes it can be a real pain in the air. And you just need to keep going with it. Don't be afraid to delete keys. You'll end up, like, sometimes just deleting them is a lot easier than trying to fix it. Because you may have to, like, it's very easy to put things in the wrong place. Like I think I did it the last keyframe. So I just deleted it, and now it's not so bad. It's still on this knees doing some weird stuff. It's probably because I've got so many keyframes. Let's delete some keyframes. Let's see how that looks. Much better. The knee sort of. I think the leg needs to actually come forward. See a definite change in the height of the knee. Let's just go for it. got some very strange stuff going here. So it's quite tricky because we can get this pose sort of lined up fairly well. Still probably gonna have issues with it really working perfectly. So it's just not the same proportions, but you can go through and get it pretty tight. And like I said, you want to spend way more time on this than I'll spend on it. Let's get this foot in. And if you want me to spend more time trying to get it tighter, I can. It just might. I'll have to try and find the time for it. It's just RotoAnim is extremely time consuming. It's probably one of the things that take possibly the longest in VFX as well. Like the longest really hard work, sort of like this is we can't simulate this or anything like that, so it's just hard manual labor. So if you don't enjoy it, it's awful. Again. So I'm just going to copy that keyframe and paste that one there. Actually, it's closer. Not twisting. Let's copy that and paste that there. So do spend more time on getting these absolutely perfect. Well, if it's just for practice, don't worry, because everyone's most people's RotoAnims are, the first ones are not the best. It's just moving way too far, that is. Probably want to save it, especially when it starts doing stuff like that. It's probably a good idea to save. I'm just going to continue trying to get these feet in. I think maybe my hips are actually off here. Let's have a look what this foot's doing. So it's coming. So this foot should be coming forward. It's actually not there, so maybe come back down a bit. Possibly forward there. So you'll definitely have to sort of adjust your hips and your legs and your feet. To get you sort of roughly in the right place. So it could be an issue if you've done too many keyframes now. Let's do this foot. Let's try and get this knee working nicely. It's not really a great idea to keyframe everything, because then if you have to change it, you have to fix all those keyframes, but sometimes you won't have much of a choice. Definitely got something wrong with this foot, that's for sure. So we've got a good bend here, we can see it's correct there. Like I was saying, if you're ever unsure, going around in circles and things just kind of ain't working, just delete it all. it's not the worst thing in the world to go just to delete a load of keyframes. And it might save you a lot of pain in the long run trying to figure stuff out, because you could have just put it in the wrong place. Which is extremely easy to do, so don't worry about that. It's very easy to mess up RotoAnim. It's very hard to see even what's going on. So I'm just going to start backtracking, so I think I've definitely got a pose slightly wrong maybe. Because now I've deleted a load of keyframes and I've got this knee working really nice now. It's working pretty well up until probably just needs to come back. So got the knee really nice and tight in there. So yeah, don't be afraid of deleting stuff. I've just had to delete a load of stuff. So you might have done this better. I not. It's like I say, it's incredibly time consuming. So I just want to give you the basics. And even though, and it's good to see me even doing it wrong, because then you kind of see, oh, it's good. It's always good to do things wrong, because then you know not to do it next time. And also making sure that your key poses are very accurate also helps a lot. So I think I may have done one of them slightly off. So go back and fix the keys on this knee. That's what happens if you key a lot of keyframes. If you then change it, you have to fix all those keys. So just be wary of how much keyframing you're doing. But you'll end up having, you'll definitely end up doing loads of keyframing at some point. I think what maybe was this last pose that sort of threw me off. I thought it was a bit close to the ground. So let's have a look at that. Even in here, it's really not looking too bad. It's looking naturalish, albeit it's not absolutely perfect, but it's not doing really strange stuff. Foot's way off here. Why is that? Is it on the ground there? No. So ankles off. So the feet are kind of a bit, she's wearing trainers, are going to be a little bit weird. So I am focusing mostly on trying to get this ankle into place over everything else. Because your ankle is a joint. So, and like I say, the main thing for getting a good RotoAnim is making sure your key points and your joints are in the correct place. And just keep going backwards and forwards until it starts to look a bit normal. Oh yeah, that foot. So I hope you guys are enjoying these tutorials and getting a lot from them. It's nice to sort of spread the knowledge more. Just learn something new if you hadn't already done this before, or just curious. It's really quite a niche thing to sort of study, unless you're really getting into sort of the Matchmove sort of area. It's quite a important skill to learn. Got some pop in here. Just probably from this foot moving way too far forward. So fix that pop in the knee. Cool. So you start to look, we sort of see something that's starting to look good. It's actually, you want, if you're this far, save it. Then I mean, you sort of just play through it. You're not going to get it back at, well, it's quite low res. You should be able to see it quite nicely, but you should be able to see most of it in the sort of just dragging the time slider. So we've done some pretty good refinement on the legs. So let's do the arms. These should be pretty easy. Just go through and we'll do these keyframes. We'll just do exactly what we did before. Start with the clavicle. Is that keyframe? Yeah, there's keyframe. We'll do the shoulder. Let's get that hand in. So I'm just going to try and get this all on the elbow first. And you might, like I said, you might want to spend more time on this, but these videos are, I thought they'd be quite quick, but they're turning into almost an hour each, or hour and a half each. I'm not sure if you guys want to listen to me for an hour and a half. So luckily we're getting a lot of this animation already from our key poses, which is good. This is exactly why we do the key pose sort of method, because albeit we're doing a lot of editing for the joints now, but if you had a really accurate rig and model, it would work so much better. You wouldn't have to do as much sort of keyframing, because all the joints would be the correct proportion. I know we kind of roughly edited it at the start on the first keyframe, but it's very hard to sort of tell if it was done. We can only do it accurately from this one angle, so it's always a little bit of a gamble. To do that, but it seems to have worked reasonably well. But like I said, anyone, if it's on your reel, anyone that's done stuff like this before will know straight away the problems that you'll be having with this. So don't worry too much, because unless you've got your own, unless you want to sit and model a new character, then rig it, then do all that stuff that goes with it. It takes a very long time, and even for working on films and stuff, the amount of times that I've just used the generic man rig and stuff like that, you don't always. Learning to do it this way is actually really good, because then you'll start to learn how to do things with not a great rig. Not saying that you'll say if you work somewhere, not saying that you'll get not a great rig. It's just a small chance that you might get one that like a body that just doesn't fit. So learning it to do it this way is probably quite important, because you'll be surprised. Even if you already know how to do this and you're just curious and you've managed to watch it up until this point, you'll know what I mean by like doing RotoAnim with rigs that don't fit. It's more common than you realise. It's quite frustrating because it does make it severely harder to do any of this with a rig that's not so great. But hopefully from the first sort of video of this, you've learned how to use those sort of blend shapes in the shape editor to help you get a much nicer fit. So you don't have to just use a really rough fit. You can sort of get it a bit better for yourselves, so it's not looking so awful in play blasts and stuff. So I'm just going to quickly go through and just do this hand. You'll find that I'm mostly just moving the elbow. So we've got quite a lot of the animation already from the key poses. We're not doing super skin tight RotoAnim, because that could take weeks. Like I said, we've not got the rig for it as well, so still got some problems with this knee, but we'll just do these arms and we'll go back to that knee. It seems to be a problem leg, which is quite annoying. So let's do this arm now. I'm not going to really do the fingers because I don't see a huge amount of point for this, because you don't really see them. But you're more than welcome to go through and refine the fingers, and you'll get to see how long that sort of stuff takes. It's all good practice. So, I know I've said this quite a lot, but just don't forget to save regularly. I have noticed with this rig it does crash every so often, So just make sure you save. That's just the dangers of using rigs you find. Let's try and get this arm in. So I may do some more RotoAnim ones at some point if I have time to do it. A sort of bespoke sort of shot for it, so I try and film someone and get a scan of them, then I'll rig it so we can try out RotoAnim with a bit more of an accurate rig. But like I said, that could take quite a while to do. But it's not impossible. And I will go through doing digi-doubles at some point, so that will come in. So probably when I do some digi-doubles, we'll make a full body rig as well. But the reason why I'm doing all these Matchmove sort of tutorials as well, so I don't do a lot of it anymore, kind of moved on. I do a lot of supervising and stuff, but I'm more of a generalist now. So if I don't pass it, like if I don't pass this on or record it down, it just kind of dies. And no one else gets the benefit from it. So I'm sure there's plenty of stuff. It's just more of getting stuff that's what I use every day. Because like I said, there's a lot of misleading stuff on YouTube. And I know there's a lot of people saying they know the right way, but this is just how I've done it at DNEG, Frame Store, and all the other places. So let's try and fix this knee at the end. So it could just be a case of adding lots of keyframes or deleting some. Actually looks like that's fixed it, to be honest. One thing I have noticed is this head though. So try and get that. Obviously this will change all the arms and stuff they've done, so be quite wary that whatever you do on this now has now changed the arms. So playing this through, I don't think that's too bad. I spent quite a while refining it. All our legs and joints are sort of in the right place. It's not doing anything crazy in the perspective. So what we can do, we can just... So yeah, some of the feet do slip off, but let's just look at it here. That comes off a bit there. Let's look at that foot. So it slips. Copy that, paste that there. Rotate that down. So if you want to do more blend shapes, I need to get the legs sort of fit a bit better. It's up to you. I'm kind of feeling that we're almost done with this. Like I say, this is still just a beginner's sort of run over overview of it. But it should get you really going with RotoAnim. Like, generally, there's not much else more to it apart from making sure your keyframes are really tight. Your key poses are really tight and getting these joints in. Because if your joints are in, everything in between generally will work really well. For this sort of RotoAnim, if you're doing really skin tight stuff, that's like kind of when you're going into bespoke sort of body tracking territory where you will need really, really good rigs and stuff. But for something like this, that knee's going over there. Let's fix that. Oh, wrong one. Something like this, this will do really well and give you all the sort of key ingredients to make it. So yeah, it's not absolutely perfect. I'll admit that. Probably could be better, but I think I've already taken up quite a lot of time. I've taken up quite a lot of your time watching this, but yeah, it's looking alright. It's not too bad. Like I say, could spend a long time refining it, but yeah. So if you guys enjoyed this tutorial, hit that like button and subscribe for more like this.